So over here we can see the model we're going to be painting today. It is the new Death Guard model, the Plagueburst Crawler. When it first came out I didn't like it too much, but now that I built it, have it in my hands, you know, I think it's kind of neat. I like the look. It's quite unique. It's a fun model. And the effect we're going for is the chipping that I mentioned earlier, as this is going to be a tutorial on that. So you can see on the camera I have this kind of really filthy bone white weird color. Kind of reminds the pre-heresy Death Guard scheme, and it's completely laced with all kinds of chipping. I'll grab a different model where you can see it a bit more. So over here you can see all of the paint has started chipping off of the tank, and that is what we're going to be discussing today. So how do we achieve this? As you can see, I primed my model in white. Really doesn't matter what color you do. There is a way to speed up this process quite a bit. It doesn't take a lot of painting time. Like I can do an entire tank in an hour, maybe two. But the thing is, there's a couple steps that have a long waiting time. We'll go into a bit more detail. So to start off, we're going to be airbrushing the model with some kind of brown. Doesn't matter how you do it, what kind of brown you do, as long as it's a bit dark, because you need the chips to give a bit of contrast to your lighter paint that goes over. So what I used to do is I would airbrush the entire thing with Vallejo rust. Then I would add some streaks with Vallejo engine gray, which we can see up here. And then I would add some streaks of Vallejo orange rust as well, just to kind of give an old rusty effect across the entire model and make sure it's sufficiently dark. So you can do that, or otherwise what I started using recently is I'm using the Forge World Castex Bronze, which is a metallic, which kind of gives a nice effect, because then as the paint chips away you see the oxidized metal underneath. If you want to be even easier, you can just get a Games Workshop, I'm not sure which brown it is, but it's a fairly dark brown they have in a spray can. That works as well. That way you can just skip priming it in white or black. You can skip airbrushing the browns, and you can, you know, save some time. But after we do the entire thing in brown, we are going to use a varnish. So first we do the entire thing in browns, then we varnish the model. I'm using a gloss varnish because it's a bit stronger and it's very cheap to get an entire thingy. After that, we're going to grab the chipping medium, which I forgot to grab. Yep, there we go. So over here we have the most important step, the chipping medium. And what takes a lot of time is after you varnish, you need to let it dry for an hour. Then you do the chipping fluid, or chipping medium, whatever you want to call it. And again, you need to let it dry for quite some time. And the way this works is you have this brown model. I know it's white right now, but you'll see later. It's brown, it's varnished, you put the chipping medium over, and then whatever you paint over the chipping medium, as soon as you start putting water on it, it starts chipping off and creating the effect. So after we put on the chipping medium, we're going to be putting on our main army color. So if you're Blood Angels, it's going to be red. If you're Salamander, it's going to be green. In my case, it is Ushabti Bone and White Scar, because the way I create this is Ushabti Bone, then I do a Zenith highlight of White Scar, and then after that is done, I start putting a sepia shade over everything. So that's going to be the plan I'm going to follow. If you're following along at home, you know, just replace this with whatever color your army is, and for the brown, doesn't matter as long as it's dark enough. Um, After that, we're going to put water across the entire model just to start chipping off the paint. And after that is done, to stop the model from chipping any further, we're going to varnish it again with matte varnish. This is Vallejo matte varnish. You can just put some water with it and you can spray it with the airbrush across the model. It's really neat. So here we have the Plagueburst Crawler. It is primed white, and I'm going to explain quickly what we're going to be doing. The effect we're going to be making is this kind of effect. All kinds of chipped paint, some heavy weathering. And the way we're going to create this is first we're going to be spraying the entire model with a dark brown. So there's various ways of doing this. I kind of like using Vallejo colors. So what I used to do is kind of mix some random browns, oranges, grays, kind of across the entire model to make a rust-like effect. That works pretty well. What you can also use is Forge World Airbrush Bronze. That works pretty well as well. Gives a bit more metallic look when the paint chips off. The most important thing is that the layer that you're going to be spraying, because first we're spraying the brown, then we're going to be spraying a different color and then chipping it off so you can see the brown underneath the actual color. And the important thing is that it's pretty dark. So you can use whatever brown you like, or dark gray if you want, but make sure it's darker than the color you're painting. So this is the first step. We do some kind of brown, keep knocking it over. After we did the brown, we're going to be using some kind of varnish to just seal the entire model, keep it from chipping further. So after we do the brown, we go here. After we do that, we go over it with chipping medium. I thought I grabbed my chipping medium. Here you go. This is Vallejo chipping medium as well. Works really neatly. We're going to be spraying that across the model, and then we're going to leave that to dry. Then we're going to be spraying the model the color that we want. So for me, that's Ushabti Bone with a zenith highlight of White Scar. And then we're going to run water across this, and the chipping medium is going to make this release from the model. So you see the brown underneath. And then to keep it from chipping any further, I'm going to seal the model with some matte varnish. So what I like to do here before I start is I put some water into the airbrush just to check it's working okay, which it is. We are then going to load some of the brown into our airbrush. And then we're going to start doing the entire model. Well, at least the parts we're going to be chipping paint off in brown. I'm not being very neat here because, you know, everywhere I overspray, I need to paint over anyway, so. Just making sure that everything is covered decently, which it mostly is, but I'm going to add just a little bit more paint. Keep going, and Just a little bit I forgot at the front. And once this step is finished, we're going to let it dry for about 10 minutes and then spray the entire thing with a varnish. As I did previously, you can use any kind of brown you want here. I'm using the Forgewood color because, well, it's what I've been using on most of my army, but you can use any kind of dark brown. If you want to save a lot of time, don't prime it white, don't spray it brown, just prime it with the Games Workshop. Can't remember the name, but they're, you know, their brown canister of primer, which works pretty okay. Yeah, looks like pretty much everything what should be brown, what I'm going to be chipping with the metallic has been done. So we'll catch you in a bit. So it's a couple minutes later, the model is dry-ish, so we're going to start spraying the gloss varnish, which has a really annoying child safety thing. There we go. No. Thank you. I'll grab some varnish, load it into the airbrush, that's fine. Turn on the compressor. And let's go. So we're going to let this dry for an hour, and then we are going to start with the fun part, the chipping medium. So here we are again, the previous layer dried. So right now, I'm going to take some chipping medium, load it into the airbrush. Just making sure I hit pretty much everything. I think I did. Shouldn't put it on too thick. Just making sure I hit the undersides as well. And that should be more than enough. So just gonna empty the airbrush, put in some water, and then spread the water just to clean it. And now we're gonna wait, and once this is dry, we start putting on the actual paint. So after some work, I made the dozer blade black. I put on some tape over it. I think I was a bit impatient because when I removed the tape, a little bit of black comes with it, but it's not too big a deal. This is just to make some hazard stripes as I did the rest of the tank. So dozer blade is black. Gonna grab some yellow, and spray it over the rest. And then when I remove the tape later, we got some really cool hazard stripes. So this blade is yellow. Use the rest of the tank to do. Just gonna clean out the remaining yellow for a sec. So we loaded the airbrush with some sharp debone air. Just making sure I hit all the small pieces that I need to be hitting. Yep. And as you can see, a little bit of the paint is starting to crackle over there. You can leave it like that, or you can just go over it a second time just to clear up that a little bit. Nope, that's the wrong one. I'm probably gonna leave it because I'm gonna go over it with some white later. Just making sure I hit all the recessed detail. So this is starting to look about right. So now I'm gonna take some white and start xenon highlighting the top parts of the model. You can, obviously skip this step if you don't do any xenon highlighting in your army. Don't do it. That's about it. So as you can see, the model is pretty white now. So now we're just gonna let this dry, and then we're gonna start off with chipping. So here we have the crawler after all of the airbrushing, the process so far. I'm just gonna remove these pieces of tape carefully. Hope I don't take too much paint with it. Let's see. I'm gonna grab my knife. Goes a little bit faster this way. So the tape is of course sticking to everything where I don't want it, but we're making some progress. So you can already see this chipping starting to happen where I'm removing the tape. Should have let the black paint dry a little bit more before I put the tape on there, but it's not a huge issue. So there we go. This is the front of the crawler, and then the rest, and we are going to start chipping it. So to start the chipping, I'm gonna grab some water and a pretty coarse brush. This is a somewhat older brush, pretty stiff bristles. Grab some water. And we're going to start working it onto the model. And as you can see, the paint slowly starts coming off. I'm using a pretty big brush here. You could use a smaller one. You could also use a paper clip to scrape a bit more controlled. It is up to you and you know how much weathering you want on your model. Let's see. I've done this technique on bigger pieces as well, like for instance a large terrain piece. The Sky Shield landing pad, and I just put the entire model beneath the tab. Went nice and fast, but for this I want a little bit more control. And sometimes you need to help it along just a little bit, so I'm gonna grab my paper clip, scratch a bit of that as well on the areas where it doesn't want to start scratching. Alright, I forgot the back side. Just gonna start working some water across that as well. So, you can see pretty nice effects happening pretty rapidly. And then once you're done with all of this scratching the paint off, you can do as little, as much as you like. Load some matte varnish into your airbrush, put some water in it, dilute it a little bit, spray it across the model. It will stop the model from chipping any further, and then you do the rest of the details with your brush. So over here we have the finished model. This is what it's going to look like at the end of the painting tutorial. I'm not going to bore you with all the details of how you paint some basic metal, but what we're going to be showing is the chipping effects across the entire Plagueburst Crawler. You can use it for a bunch of different vehicles. It really depends on your army and your color if it's nice to do the chipping effect. For Nurgle Death Guard, I thought it fitted really well. So this is the finished products. So to finish the model off, I layered the entire carapace with Seraphim Sepia twice, just to make it a bit darker. Then I did all of the metallics by hand, just a single layer, quick shade. And then I started using some weathering powders, as you can see, across the siege shield, across the sides. Whoop! So yeah, that's the end of the Plagueburst Crawler. I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, let me know, give me some tips. Let me know what you want to see in the future. What I was personally thinking is I have a lot of Imperial Knights. They're done to a pretty good standard, and people quite often ask me, "Oop, how did you get the transfers?" So I can show you that for the next video. But yeah, if you have any techniques that you want to see, any models that you want to see painted up, let me know. We have some other people who want to make painting videos as well. So if you want to acquire some edge highlighting, some blending, just comment. We'll see what we can do. And thanks for watching.